Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com.
Twice now. I've forgotten to turn the mics on.
See, the red button, you push it, and then when it lights up red, you move up the fader, and then everybody can hear it.
Artist of the day
It's like magic.
is Rush. And let's stay north of the border. Take off, hosers. You remember I introduced you guys to Bob and Doug McKenzie a couple weeks ago, and Geddy Lee was in that song when you and Steve were both staring at me like I was an idiot for knowing that Take Off by Bob and Doug McKenzie had featured Geddy Lee from Rush. Aron Solomon is the head of legal strategy, right, for Esquire Digital, today's Esquire.com, and a lot smarter than me and Jordan, and probably does not care to hear about Bob and Doug McKenzie when we're talking about Canada.
So first of all, Rush is the greatest band of all time, and do you know why his name is Geddy?
No.
So his name is Gary. But his grandmother, who was a Polish Holocaust survivor who came over to Canada, couldn't pronounce Gary, so she pronounced it as Geddy. And that's his name.
How do you know everything?
I've had the good fortune to meet him because he's very good friends with a friend of mine who owned the most iconic deli in Toronto when I lived there. Super guy.
So I also think it's mandatory in Canada that you know everything about Rush.
You need to know all the lyrics backward in both official languages.
Oh, man. How are we so lucky? He's in Forbes. He's on ESPN National, CBS News, everywhere else. Aron Solomon right here on ESPN Syracuse, Orange Nation. And Aron, we've been talking so much about Jesse Edwards, entered the portal yesterday. There was all the confusion and speculation leading up to it. Let's just start with the basics and what we kind of know and already know. What are the parameters for international players receiving NIL? We know Kentucky had a guy get paid for a photo shoot in the Bahamas. What can be done? What can't be done? What are the workarounds? And why would another school maybe be able to do something Syracuse can't?
The first parameter is that all of your listeners should listen to me when I come on here the day after NIL was announced, and I said it was going to be the wild, wild west, and nobody believed me. That said, let's get into the legal weeds. There are two visas that international student athletes can use, an O1 and a P1 in the United States. And there are lawyers who specialize in this kind of stuff, not me, who are very successful at getting this. So the whole narrative that came out when this Jesse news was announced that Syracuse couldn't get him NIL deals because even though he has a very American name, he's Dutch. He's a citizen of the Netherlands. Doesn't hold any weight. I mean, he can absolutely do NIL work.
Can you do it in the States, though? Because I've been reading a lot that, if you're going to make NIL money as, an American college student, you have to earn the money outside of the country.
Nope. Those two visas, the O1 and the P1, grant the ability to work in the United States for these young people who have exceptional talents in athletics and the arts. But, here's the thing. It's not even the issue. Because the real issue is, was NIL from minute one really just intended to be pay to play? Because, yeah, it was. I mean, let's be honest. It was legalizing the old illegal, the booster gives your mom a new Ford Thunderbird. That's what it was, and that's what it is. So I personally don't think that these folks should have to do any work at all for the NIL. You know what we should be doing with NIL students? I'm very, very serious about this. Send them out to children's hospitals. Let them put on the T-shirt of the dealership or the restaurant or wherever where the NIL boosters are, and have them go do good work in the community. That's what NIL should be about. It really is about paying athletes to come to your school and play.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. You're a smart guy.
Sometimes.
Is there enough people paying in these situations that they don't need, like? Are people so rich that they don't need a return on investment in this? Like, yes, it'd be great if they were volunteering at the hospitals and whatnot, but if you're a businessman, you want this guy at your car dealership, at your restaurant signing stuff. You want him making the money back for you, right?
Now, it's not about ROI. It's never been about ROI. And, Syracuse should know better than anybody, having disenfranchised one of the major, NIL donors to the program. It's about people with money making it possible for you to attract, and here's the most important word, as we saw with Jesse, retain the kind of athletes that you want to have come into NIL. It's not about a financial ROI, because if it was always a losing proposition. We didn't have decades of football players going illegally to Penn State because of boosters so that they were getting a return for the car dealership. It was because they wanted to go have drinks and watch Penn State win national championships. That's what NIL is really about.
But here's the issue I have with that is when you compare it to the teams that were cheating, those are the same teams that are going to win the NIL battle, right?
Yeah, because NIL is legalized cheating. In fact, here's some mathematics for everybody, although it's not really math. NIL plus the transfer portal equals free agency with no salary cap.
I agree. And that's what I've kind of been saying. I don't think this is any better than guys getting money in McDonald's bags. I just think at least the NCAA can benefit from it now because guys will stay in school. And Aaron, you've been on this wild, wild west of NIL for a while, even longer than Dickie V, who had a tweet yesterday about Jesse Edwards in Syracuse where he said the landscape is totally out of control. So let me ask you, man, you're much smarter than both of us put together. Is there anything in the world the NCAA can actually do to regulate this? And would they even have any incentive to do that?
So, the NCAA, like I say every time I come on the show, is a total non-entity. It doesn't matter. So I read Dickie V's quotes, and they were excellent quotes. He said, the NCAA must take an active look as to what's happening with the entire hoops landscape. It's totally out of control. Now, I agree with Dickie V, but I would substitute the phrase NCAA for the courts. This is ultimately a legal issue. The courts are going to be the ones, in the absence of legislators, because they're not doing anything, who are going to decide this is okay and it's not okay. And the way this is going to play out is, using your McDonald's analogy, the future of NIL is the money in the McDonald's bag, except it's not even needs to be in a McDonald's bag anymore. It's just going to be openly handed to the players with nothing in return.
This disappoints me. It makes me sad, Aaron, that this is what it's come to, because there are going to be haves and have-nots in this situation, and schools are going to have to be smart with the money in these collectives. Is it going to also come down to fan bases? Like, Syracuse fans are now the GMs of the basketball team, right? If you want to make a donation to the collective, it's up to the fans now in order to get this money to them, because the university can't do it, right? Yeah, okay, so this idea of participating is great, but come on. I wrote recently about what Keyshawn Johnson is doing at USC, and it's great to feel that I'm a part owner of this collective. But, and I'm not mentioning any universities' names, but imagine you had a very high-profile NIL backer who wanted to do NIL very publicly and bring in celebrities. And there was a university who's like, we don't want to do things so publicly like this. Then you're going to lose that backing of the NIL person, and you're not going to be able to attract and retain those athletes. This is going to be something that needs to be fixed from hypothetical universities' presidency on down. Yeah, and I'm gonna push back on this a little, because he's not the only one at Syracuse. Right. I didn't mention the name Syracuse. There are others that. Yeah, I know, but I know, but he's not the only one. There are multiple people that donate more than him at Syracuse. Yeah, and I think there's I was gonna say it comes down to people want to do business in a certain way, and some don't. Exactly. And any university who wants to be, as you guys have said, that top tier player in the NIL game is going to have to be open to the Keyshawn Johnsons of the world, setting up their Tommy Collective, to powerful influencers in the community wanting to get Jimmy Fallon front row seats. Because if you don't do all of these things,
You won't be in the top tier. You're going to have some good student athletes come to your school. But if we're talking, as you said a few minutes ago, in the context of Kelsey and Syracuse women's lacrosse in national championships, if we're talking about national championships, it's pay to play, and you got to be open to the whims of the backers of NIL.
It's going to be interesting, Aaron, because I'm sitting here pondering if I had that kind of money and Jesse Edwards was here, he's not winning the national championship for me. Is it going to come down to situations like that where people have to make a decision? Like you want to return? You say they don't want a return on investment. They want wins, though, right?
Which is why the transfer portal is a two-way door. It's fine for collective/university presidents/athletic directors to be able to tell athletes, you've been here for a year, you've been here for two. It's not working out. So the NIL money that's on a 2-year contract rather than a 4-year contract is about to dry up. Why don't you try plying your basketball and NIL trade elsewhere as we go to find the person we thought you were going to be?
And okay, we've these guys in the ACC Power Fives, they're trying to get their NIL money, but you're going to have a piece coming out in Forbes on Friday. These kids in the Ivy League are just trying to get dang scholarships, Aaron. Why are a couple of basketball players from Brown suing the Ivy League? What's going to come of this?
Got to make a small correction. Although I've written in Forbes, I have a piece coming out in Fortune magazine on Friday.
Fortune, you're in Forbes, you're in Fortune, you're in ESPN, CBS, everywhere. Today'sEsquire.com. Thank you for the correction.
I'm everywhere you want it to be.
Don't put it in Forbes too, I bet.
Yeah, that's true. So something very interesting has happened in the Ivy League. There was a lawsuit recently brought by a male and female basketball player from Brown University who said that basically the Ivy League is engaging in price fixing by not allowing athletic scholarships. As we know, a student athlete can go to an Ivy based on financial aid, but they can't get athletic scholarships. So this is going through the courts, and it's going to be very, very interesting. The Ivy League is not going to be able to do business the way they've done business, and NIL is going to come into play big time in the Ivy League.
I did want to hit one more thing, Aaron, with you. You've been following the minor league baseball stuff. You were on this before a lot of other people. He's
on everything before everybody. It's nuts.
What is the current situation with the minor league baseball teams, and have they rectified the situation of players living basically in other people's houses and sleeping on floors and not making any money?
Right. Through this old thing called basically the unionization process, there are infinitely more fair wages. Listen, not a lot of people are getting rich in baseball's minor leagues, but there's a lot less sleeping on floors and things like that. Compared to the first time we talked about this a year and a half, 2 years ago, it's much better quality of life and much more fairness for minor leaguers, whether they're playing in rookie ball, single A ball, all the way through their kind of portal to the pros. And that's a great thing. The irony here is that baseball, Major League Baseball, might have done themselves a big favor by playing along with the way things have gone, because they might have saved baseball as a legal America's pastime, and they might have found a way to get out of the destruction of baseball's antitrust exemption.
All right, Aaron, always great stuff, even though I don't want to agree with you on some of it at the current time.
Yes.
But hopefully we can figure this out, and hopefully salary caps are put in place in college basketball. It's just a weird thing to say also. So
we'll see.
It's always a good thing to talk to you. And one more question. We all know Rush is number one. What's the second best Canadian rock band or musical group?
Okay, I'm going to come up with one that you guys are going to have to research. This was a band that rocked so hard years ago. It's called Toronto. And you got to listen to Toronto's Even the Score. Trust me, if you like classic rock with a little bit of energy, Toronto.
I was going to say Kim Mitchell.
Well, Max Webster was fantastic. Max Webster were contemporaries of Rush. But if you like Max Webster and you like Rush, you're going to like Toronto.
Okay. Aaron, hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, guys. Have a good one.
All right, there's Aaron Solomon. Head of Strategy, Esquire Digital, today's Esquire.com.
Yeah, read his stuff on today's Esquire.com. Follow his Twitter, too, at Aron Solomon. He's got thoughts on Saquon not wanting to sign a franchise tag with the Giants. He's got all of the tennis insight. If you're a tennis person, he's got the legal expertise. Like, he's worth the follow, I promise you.
All right, we'll come back. We'll kick Jordan out of the studio, and we will also pick our artist of the day for tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow's basically Friday.
It is. We have no show Friday. I don't believe there's a Canadian artist on the list for tomorrow. It's ESPN Radio Syracuse. Utica Rome, QSportsTalk.com.
This